Hey, Amy.
Hey, Kat. Welcome back to Unfold.
Thanks, Amy.
This is a special bonus episode of Unfold. We'll have a new episode out next month, but we're here to discuss a very important environmental story that Kat has been working on. As I understand it, we might soon witness environmental healing on a major scale.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. We're talking about the world's largest dam removal project in history. It's along the Klamath River. After more than a century, 4 of the river's 6 dams will be down by the end of this year.
And for those unfamiliar with its geography, the Klamath River runs more than 250 miles from southern Oregon all the way to the Pacific Ocean in northern California. And these dams were originally built, as I understand it, for hydropower.
That's right. Historically, the Klamath was the 3rd largest salmon-producing river on the West Coast. Salmon, as you may know, are born in rivers, head out to sea, and then return to rivers at the end of their lives to spawn. But dams on the Klamath, which are like 33 to 172 feet high, blocked fish from accessing more than 400 miles of spawning habitat. I mean, think about that for a second, Amy. Imagine you leave home and then you come back to a concrete wall, locking you out from everything that made you you.
That's quite an eviction. I mean, 400 miles of spawning habitat, that is incredible.
Yeah. Especially when you realize that it's that habitat that helped all of your ancestors persist and stay resilient to all sorts of changes for millions of years.
And salmon need cold water to survive and spawn. Water released from dams is often too warm for them to survive. Salmon populations plummeted as a result of these dams, and so did water quality. So what happens when all 4 dams come down? Will salmon populations return?
That is the big dam question that UC Davis scientists and a team of others are hoping to answer.
Kat, I know you've written about this in a new multimedia feature story called The Salmon Diaries, Life Before and After the Klamath Dam Removal. So tell me a little bit more about this.
Well, first, the dam removal isn't just about restoring salmon or a river. It's also about righting a historic wrong. These dams were built on the ancestral lands of the Yurok, Hoopa, and Karuk tribes, and downstream of the Klamath tribes of Oregon. I talked with Barry McCovey, who was director of the Yurok Tribal Fisheries Program.
When the dams went in, the tribal people in the Klamath Basin weren't consulted. And I think that was offensive, and people were uncomfortable with that and have been for over 100 years. And there was always an effort, and always in the back of our minds, we knew that we needed to get the dams out. We knew that they were causing, major issues, and we knew that you can't just go and break an ecosystem in half.
The lack of consultation is common throughout the history of U.S. dam construction. UC Davis Native American Studies professor Beth Middleton Manning explains.
Almost every river where there's a dam, there's a history of displacement, disruption, and putting in that infrastructure without the consent of the communities and nations whose homeland that is.
You can't understate the importance of salmon and this river to tribal cultural identity. I heard from several Native people along the Klamath that without salmon, there is no tribe. The connection is that absolute.
So, Kat, what finally led up to the agreement that the dams should come down?
Well, it didn't happen for a long time. You got to remember, the first dam was built in 1908, and many people were against that from day one. But there was this massive fish kill in 2002, and it made Undam the Klamath this rallying cry, led by the tribes and picked up by all sorts of voices. That's when momentum really began to build. But it took another 20 years for FERC, or the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, to approve the decommissioning project in 2022. First dam came down last year. The last dam is expected to come down this fall, just in time for the return of the Chinook salmon.
Wow, that's a really long time that those dams have been up. So how is UC Davis involved in this story?
Well, we're very fishy people. For the past 4 years, UC Davis freshwater ecologist Rob Lusardi and his team have been collecting data along the river, things like temperature, water chemistry, and aquatic insects. All of these offer clues to understanding a changing river. This idea was to collect the data before the dams came down and then compare them to after the dam's removal. The most fascinating part of all this to me is what he's been doing with the fish's otoliths.
Otoliths. I remember we talked about those in season 2 of Unfold, remember?
I do.
Nature tells its story. Fish eyes and ears. You can find it on our website.
That's right. Otoliths are the ear bones of fish. The Yurok tribe and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service extract these ear bones from the salmon they collect when they go out on fish carcass surveys. Then they send the otoliths to Rob's lab at UC Davis. Here's how Rob explains it.
Otoliths are like these mini little data loggers, and we can use the microchemistry of those otoliths to tell us the habitats that those fish have used throughout the basin and get a really nice idea for what tributaries they're using, how long they're in the main stem, when they hit the ocean, all of that.
Okay, there's a lot of science here, so explain this to me a bit more. How does it work?
Sure. This is actually my favorite part. It's full of who would have thunk it science. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. There's a naturally occurring chemical called strontium. It's found in rocks, soil, and water. Each stream of the Klamath carries its own unique strontium signal, its own flavor, right? Rob's lab has been sampling these streams to basically create a map of strontium signals throughout the watershed.
Okay, otoliths, get back to those. What does this have to do with fish ears?
Everything. As a salmon swims over the rocks and streams of its life, it picks up and stores strontium signals in their otoliths, their ears. It leaves this telltale record of where that fish lived throughout its life.
That's really amazing.
Right? Who would have thunk it? The other thing that amazes me is how they figured this out to begin with. I mean, at some point, scientists had to figure out that through grinding, polishing, laser blasting this otolith, they could get at that record, which looks oddly just like the cross-section of a tree rings and all.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And by matching that to Rob's Klamath Basin strontium map, they could know exactly when and where that fish spent its life along the Klamath.
Kind of like reading a salmon's diary, huh?
Yeah, sounds shady when you say it that way. But this kind of science has never been done before for a dam removal project. And it's what's going to help answer those big dam questions we talked about.
Okay, so you obviously took a trip up to the Klamath to see all of this work in action. What did you experience? What was it like?
Yeah, I did. I love it up there. We were there in late November 2023. First, we went to the mouth of the Klamath in foggy North Coast, California, on the Yurok's ancestral land. Then we went as far upriver as salmon could reach for the last 100 years, to Iron Gate Dam near Wairika. It was 32 degrees and the coldest river put in that we have ever experienced.
Yeah, I imagine in November it's not toasty warm.
No. There was literally ice on the tree branches, okay? We got to tag along with the Yurok and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on their last salmon carcass survey of the fall season, just to see how they collect fish and these otoliths. At the time, there were demolition crews that were prepping Iron Gate for removal. So in the background, there were these construction trucks beeping and scraping. It felt like this really momentous time to be on the river.
After the dams come down, does Rob have an idea of what changes we should expect to see? I mean, do we think salmon populations will bounce back quickly?
Well, Rob and most people I spoke with expect water quality to improve pretty quickly. Salmon, we're going to take a few more years to figure out. Most do expect the salmon will return and their populations will increase. But Rob's not just interested in the number of salmon. He wants to bring back their life history diversity.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Biodiversity?
Not quite. It's the idea that before the dams, and I'm talking for millions of years, salmon had this diversity of life experiences. They used a variety of habitats. They migrated at different times. If something happened, like, say, a landslide or an earthquake, there was enough resilience in their population to weather a few bumps and losses along the way. Dams changed all that. Removing them and restoring the river can begin to right that wrong as well. Here's Rob Lusardi again.
A step like this, removing 4 large dams on the Klamath River, is obviously important from a cultural and spiritual and economic perspective, but it's also really important for the ecology and really important for salmon themselves. Of all the things that we could do for salmon, promoting access to headwater habitat, to cold water, to pristine waters in some cases, like the headwaters above Upper Klamath Lake, is basically the best thing we could do at this point.
So, Kat, you spent a lot of time on this story. What do you think people should learn from the Klamath Dam removal?
One final thought is that this is not just a story about the Klamath. Across the world, there are thousands of what some people call deadbeat dams. These are dams that have outlived their purpose. And just south of the Klamath even, there are plans underway right now to remove dams on the Eel River. They could be out as soon as 2028. Yeah, so there are a lot of eyes looking to the Klamath for lessons and answers. And for the first time, our science is helping to provide a piece of that with this level of accuracy that no dam removal has had before.
Cool. So you can read Kat's story, The Salmon Diaries, Life Before and After the Klamath Dam Removal at ucdavis.edu/climate.
There you'll also find a great video on the Klamath Dam removal by multimedia specialist Alicia Beck.
It's very good. Check it out. And as always, find a link to the story and all of the Unfold episodes at ucdavis.edu/unfold. I'm Amy Quinton.
I'm Kat Kerlin.
Thanks for listening.
Unfold is a production of UC Davis. Original music for Unfold comes from Damien Verrett and Curtis Jerome Haynes. Additional music comes from Blue Dot Sessions.